Some bright morning when this life is over, I'll fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I'll fly away. I'll fly away, oh glory. I'll fly away in the morning when I die. Hallelujah, by and by. I'll fly away.
We call it Caring for Our Own. The group meets once a month at Center Church here in downtown Brattleboro. And what I love about that group is that each time we just go where the Spirit takes us. And we have some plans, but we never quite know what's going to happen. We never quite know who's going to show up. But we have often between 15 and 20 people show up for this group to talk about death and dying.
A whole paradigm shift is taking place, and it's about death, because this is the death of a way of life. It's unsustainable. That means it can't go on. That's what causes us to die. Our body becomes unsustainable. So rather than fighting it, rather than getting angry, rather than having even rallies about it, how about if we embrace it and work with it and help that dying thing to die in a respectful way and treat it, bury it, and then see what happens next. So to me, this is the most radical, most empowering, most healing work that we can be doing at this time.
It feels to me very similar to what happens in birth. That in birth there was a big political struggle to turn this very important part of living into a consumer event.
One of the things that has been most interesting with the Caring for Our Own group is recognizing that if we create an organization that can be an umbrella support entity to really assist in multiple ways people's exploration into what this experience can be. In that way, we align with people who are becoming expert in home funerals. We align with others who have home care assistance programs.
My name is Janet. I live in Dummerston, Vermont, and I was born, literally born, into caregiving. My life started in a nursing home that my parents bought the year that I was born. And I knew nothing different in my life than caregiving and taking care of aged people and watching the process and the steps that are taken from the minute they walk through a nursing home door into their aged time. I watched many people die at a very young age. And as time passed on and I realized that this was a passion I had, a passion of helping the elderly, serving the community the best way that I can, and if helping people die in the best way and most comfortable way that is possible. And by doing this, I learned that we needed to interview each client. We needed to speak with the family. We needed to know a lot about what goes on in their life and how they lived. And then we proceeded to how did they want to die.
What they would like to see happen before, during, and after their deaths is a transformational experience for everyone that's involved. And Sean and I are very eager to empower people. Some people want really people to hold their hands through it. Other people just need a little bit of guidance. And we really see ourselves as a community resource. We have a whole package put together of all the gear that you need, what we call a death kit, all put together. Everything from Depends to olive oil to blankets to a comb and many, many other little small details for each step of preparing the body. And we love talking about this. We love helping people with this to exactly how much they want to be helped. Some people want to just do it on their own. Don't tell me anything. Some people need just a little bit of advice. Some people would like you there kind of as a co-pilot. And some people want to have their hands held all the way through. And we're willing to help at any stage of that.
Sharing skills that people used to have in the old days before there were funeral parlors. So showing us the cleaning of the body, what you need to do, the wrapping of the body, how to keep the body cool when it's in the home for a number of days, the laws around burial. So there, how to get the transport certificate to move the body. There are many people who have that solid information. So connecting with just one group will put you in touch with everyone else.
And the group is working on developing maybe lists of people, skill sets, people who, somebody might be better at helping somebody write an obituary, somebody else might be better at washing a body, somebody might be better at, building a coffin or working, doing something very physical in terms of manual labor. So I like the idea of having people with different skills come together and help each other, neighborhood effort. And the most recent step is my interest in shrouds. And I hadn't really thought about this too much, but somehow I made a connection a couple of months ago around how much I love to wrap gifts. And so I'm somebody who has always collected fabric and ribbons. I used to manage a thrift store here. I had incredible amounts of ripped velvet that I got to use for packages. And I just love the idea, the creativity, the spontaneity around wrapping a gift and gifting it. And so I started thinking, oh, shrouds, that's sort of like wrapping a person as a gift and, giving them back to the earth. So my partner Rick is thinking about building a casket, wants to definitely, and will, I'm sure. He's a project kind of person who works with wood a lot, so that's his natural way of kind of preparing himself, reflecting on his life and death.
On Valentine's Day a number of years ago, my mom was hit with a stroke, and 5 days later she died. In the course of that time, as she moved in and out of her state, there were a number of extraordinary things that happened, but one of the most touching was when she was in a cogent frame of mind. She would put her arm around the top of the handmade wooden box that we had made for her. Big smile on her face as she put her arm around the top and said, "My box, here's my box." And inside that box, we had put photographs from her life, her favorite pictures from when she was little, of her brothers and sisters, her old friends, and of course the grandchildren. And there was just a beautiful sense of passage in the making as she was moving in and out of recognizing that where she was headed was a place that she was ready to go.
My partner Rick and I lived in North Carolina for a year, and we took a course in dying. I can't remember the exact part of it. We watched the Atul Gawande film. I may be mispronouncing his name, but thought about different aspects of dying. And then I became aware that there were actually cemeteries where people were doing green burial there.
I've learned that if you know things about death and if you know things about burial, then you can make a decision. And with our advanced care planning work that we do, the whole thing is not to tell anybody what they should do, but to let them know what the options are. Because if you don't know, you can't choose.
So I came to advanced care directives seeing how important it was, because my mom had said that she didn't want to be kept alive after a stroke if it was so we could help her with that.
One of the things that happens with dementia, which is one of the things that happens to lots of us as we get older, is that you can't any longer sign a document saying this is what I want, because you can't answer those kind of questions. If I get into this condition, under these circumstances, these specific things about dementia, then I do or don't want this to happen. So that someone isn't being fed if they said, please allow me to die naturally if I don't even know where I am. One of the articles I brought, one of my favorite articles, is talking about AND, which is allow natural death. And this doctor had their whole hospital change the wording. Because you think about do not resuscitate, and it sounds like you're not doing something kind to somebody. And that's a long story in itself. But allow natural death sounds like something people can understand. And the thing about an advance directive is you don't need an attorney, you don't need a notary. It's been made so it's accessible for anybody. any, that are at home, whatever income level. You just need 2 adult witnesses who are not related in any way and don't benefit by your death, and filling out the document. So, easy, right? Easy peasy, except it isn't so easy. Because often people haven't thought about it and don't know about the options. The nice thing about Vermont is there's a booklet called Taking Steps that really, in one little booklet, sort of gives the picture.
Hospice was wonderful, and one of the hospice workers helped me do my advanced directive. And in that, I did a lot of thinking about how I wanted my burial to be, and my wake. And I know no one knows what will happen in the future, but if the gods allow, I will die at home, and I will be waked at home. And people are sharing information on how to do that. There are ways to keep the body cool during that period. I would like my my wake, my dying, my wake, and my burial to be a spiritually and emotionally nourishing experience for the people I'm leaving behind.
Ideally, someone will think about it ahead of time. We're really trying for 19-year-olds, because at 19, no one else can officially say, this is what that person wanted. So I always say everyone should have an advanced directive from the age of 19 to 109.
When I was in the situation, and as a hospice volunteer, when one of my clients died when I was with her, she had planned a green burial. And so I was gifted with this experience of helping her through this process after she died with her community who were prepared for it. I feel so lucky that I've had that experience, so that I have that in my mind and as background for when it'd be my turn to help take care of my dad.
We're living our lives when we're involved in these events, including the death. The death is a part of living our life, and to live it in a way that that honors the people in our community by making them in charge of this feels really important. Really important, but also human. It's human. And that's a problem with a number of events that have been cut up and made to fit into this consumer system. Dying is not about your last stand as a consumer. Let me spend my money on this coffin and these services. No, this is about really living your life and really having a death that's meaningful.
As I got to know more about green burial through hospice, I would tell my dad about it, and he was like, I'm on it. I want a green burial. And we've picked out the place on his land, and he's lucky that he has land to do this on. So the more I've gotten involved with green burial, I've been asked to give a few talks, and so many people come up afterwards and say, well, where can we have a green burial? And I said, well, if you don't have land, right now there's not that much available in southern Vermont, or actually in Vermont, period. There are these cemeteries that are now being hybrid cemeteries that are opening up natural sections. And there's a couple of them in the Brattleboro area. And I think in some of the towns around, I think that it would be possible to ask the cemeteries to be able to have natural burials. I'm setting up a workshop so that to have people be exposed to the idea of green burial as part of land preservation. And that our bodies, as we return them to the soil, actually help the soil be richer, just like compost in gardens. And it doesn't have to be something that is negative for the environment. It's really positive.
One of the things that I've been interested in is the environmental implications of green burial. And as an environmentalist and kind of environmental professional, I'm aware of the different the hazards of our current system of death, our current system of burials, the carbon footprint of making caskets of concrete and steel and putting bodies, embalmed bodies in them and then just sticking them underground. So when I discovered the idea of green burial, I was very intrigued with its many implications, both spiritual and environmental.
Back in the 1980s, with the help of my mom and a lot of community leaders, the nonprofit Manitou Project was formed with the tagline of community with nature. How is it that we, as conscious human beings, can actually not just increase our own self-awareness, but also our ability to harmonize our life in conjunction with the natural world. So with 9 miles of trails and different programs that encourage ecological education, camps, Earth Friends Discovery Day Camp with Vermont Wilderness School, alliances with Brattleboro Area Hospice, with the YWCA, YMCA, with Insight Meditation, all these different groups that all would like to have connection with the natural world in an open environment that's really welcoming to all kinds of different approaches, and also building community around that. So Manitou has been an important magnet for this sort of activity.
Manitou is a place that means a lot to me. The land there is wonderful. It's wild, conserved land that has really inspired a lot of us to want to be involved in new approaches to wildlands conservation.
When I look and read about some of the ecology and the thoughts about being more connected, being more connected as a community, being more connected to not only birth but death, and being there, being a witness, being not always trying to change it, but helping people with the process.
I became interested in the whole issue of home burial and a burial by friends and by non-professionals. After I attended and participated in the funeral of the burial of a friend of mine, and we buried her. This was the startling thing to me. Every other burial I had been to, you maybe took a shovel and dropped one bit of earth on the grave and then handed it to the next person, and then the professionals took over. There were not professionals there. And this made all of the difference. Her coffin was completely covered, shovelful after shovelful. There was something so meaningful about doing this for our friend and neighbor, someone who had been a part of our lives and we a part of hers. We didn't leave her to the professionals. We put her into the earth. It was profoundly moving to me.
Following her death and green burial, there were a number of us that were really moved to see how we could create an experience like this for others in the community. And in fact, wouldn't it be nice if we could serve as elders to one another, serve as guides to one another, and supports for each other as we each looked at our own mortality and could provide guidance and care for our loved ones and our own friends who were also facing their twilight years. And caring for our own became this informal group that was meeting monthly to begin really exploring how we could create such an entity.
Rick initially wanted to be laid out on the kitchen table, but it is our only eating table, so I thought it was a little bit, I think he's agreed not to be there because people might actually want to prepare food or sit down. It just feels like I don't know.